So I've wanted to do a summit of summits, like, and Kathy's the one that kind of planted this in my head. She's like, Rod, there's a convergence happening right now between Bitcoin, AI, energy, and all these industries. And they're all converging and colliding right now. And it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? We need to like bring that conversation to light. And it would be very tough to do it. Like our park summits are very focused on Bitcoin and freedom tech, and they're like 100, 150 people. This one, I really want to bring a lot of the industry leaders across Bitcoin, AI, energy, and freedom tech together.
Rod, it's been too long. It's been way too long. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, Preston. Happy Friday. Welcome back to the States. It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I love going to Europe.
Yeah.
I just hate the flying business. Like the admin to get there is the part that's like just terrible. But once I'm there, I'm loving the coffee, first of all. Like it doesn't get any better than that. But I'm happy to be back home.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, you were in Riga, right?
Yeah.
Baltic Honey Badger. I mean, just the people, what they're building, the innovation that you can touch and feel. I mean, it's simply amazing.
How about the ARC?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was there and I was just talking with Max and Anna, and they're like, oh, did you see that we did the first ARC transaction with Cooks and some of those folks? And I was just like, no, are you serious? Because the last thing I heard, you needed like a soft fork for that to happen. And they're like, no, they did it. And I was like, what? So yeah, that was a really big deal.
If we can go on like a tangent right now, because when I got into Bitcoin, which was like in 2017, 2018, remember the lightning torch when we were just like trying to pass around a lightning invoice around? Yeah. Like Jack Dorsey to Odell to like Adam Back. I mean, it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Back then. But now, I mean, you got Square accepting Bitcoin at the POS. You got ARC on the layer 2, making a better implementation to make Bitcoin money. It's simply amazing.
For people that maybe aren't very tech savvy, because we're like nerding out with some of the terminology here, but I'm not
tech savvy either at all.
But in general, what this is doing, so ARC is another protocol that some of the best engineers in the space have been working on. And what it enables is, like, one of the challenges you have with Lightning Network is managing your channels. If you're going to do it and you're custodying the sides and you're opening the channels and you're managing that liquidity, the inbound, outbound liquidity, it can be really burdensome.
So annoying.
Super annoying. And so what they've done is like these virtual UTXOs that then settle on chain. And what this is enabling is, if you're a vendor and you want to accept Lightning payments, you want to go layer 2 and accept these immediately settling Bitcoin payments. Now you don't have to manage this inbound, outbound liquidity. You can use this other protocol in conjunction with Lightning called ARC that allows you to just use it kind of seamlessly and not have to worry about the liquidity of the channels, which is massive. It's huge.
Massive. And honestly, like at these local meetups, I mean, Alex from the ARC team, they were like, I'm pretty sure just like messing around with it in testnet at Bitcoin Park back, I don't know, months prior to that. And it's just so cool to see it live and in action.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really surprised. I didn't realize that it was going to be happening there, and then seeing it, I was kind of blown away.
But that's the thing, like, yesterday I was at Block's proto rig announcement in Dalton, Georgia.
Oh, okay. How was it?
It was fantastic. You got ARC, a small team building on the payments layer, right? With nobody, and then you got a big company, Block, that now is heads down building in the mining space.
For people that don't, this is Jack Dorsey's company.
Yep. And
so
Jack was there.
Yeah.
And, don't trust, verify, do your own research. But with that said, there's just so many amazing people. And I truly believe like Bitcoin's this gravitational force and the common denominator just to build really cool stuff. And what Block's doing right now, especially with Proto, with Thomas leading them on the hardware side, especially making these kind of modular rigs. Because like before, you'd kind of like rip and replace when machines would break or
the whole
fan
rig
would break. The whole thing.
Yeah.
You can put these boxes in. It's completely modular. And one of the two things that kind of blew me away, because I met the team, but I didn't really get to meet the team. And one thing that Jack mentioned to me was Rod, you see all these people that are on the team. And I said, yeah, one thing that's striking to me, Jack, is you're saying 11 years, 16 years, 10 years at the company. You guys have been just building a Bitcoin company, I think, since 2018, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So they were at Cash App or Square before, and now they're at Proto and BitKey and so on. And he's like, yeah. And if you go one layer below that, now they're all Bitcoiners too. Now they all get the mission and they're all on the mission.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, didn't they get into like some big stock thing, like the Fortune 500 or something like that?
Yeah, they recently hit the 500, I think.
The 500? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. And it's like so much of this whole AI wave, every day is just going to get better. Is Bitcoin going to get easier to use and better money? Every single day, it just gets better, which is so cool.
I want to get back to the AI thing, but on the block announcement, the thing that I find really fascinating is he has these engineers that are hardware engineers.
Yes.
They're production line engineers that like understand the whole production process, making sure that when you bring something to market that is hardware, that it's not immediately, OBE because there's newer tech. So they understand the interoperability. They understand the fact that you got to be able to swap cards so that you're not throwing the whole,
Totally.
Like they understand all of this. What was the other thing that you would say that came out of the big announcement there? Because it seems like the modularity of the cards and being able to kind of keep using the hardware and swap as better tech comes out on the cards. Was there anything else that you found like really fascinating with the announcement?
I'll say two things just from my perspective.
Yeah.
One, there was a lot of head nodding and they did the work for a year plus on this.
Mm-hmm.
And when Thomas was doing his keynote, he was mentioning like, we went to a bunch of you guys, we went to sites, we went to each of the areas.
Yeah.
And we're like looking and feeling the pain points, and they designed based on that kind of feedback. That's one.
Yeah.
Two, this is a product that's for all, but who are your biggest customers? Like, so it was really cool because we were at the core facility and we actually got to see it live. So, some people are like, oh, wait, don't worry, 2 more weeks and we'll plug it in and it'll work, promise. But it was like live running at the facility. And you would think from a business opportunity standpoint, you would just be with big co-miners there, right? Because they're the biggest tickets, they would make the biggest purchase orders. It was awesome, Preston, to see my friends Scott 9000 from the BitAxe Project, Eco from the 256 Foundation, the Wilson Mining Brothers, who are just these like...
Scott was in Riga, so he must have gone straight to this.
He went straight there, took a 2-hour ride from Atlanta to like wherever we were in Georgia.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I'm ready. Because he's been waiting for this for a long time.
Yeah.
But to continue on top of that, there was West Texas miners. Shout out to the Choya guys, Brad Cuddy. And then there was the big co-miners. I mean, like you had, Clean Spark, their entire executive team was there.
Wow.
Foundry CEO Mike Collier was there. And so the fact that Jack and Thomas and the entire team, Genia, they all invited all of these different groups was a testament to their going into the market and getting into the community, all feedback, not just from one subset being the largest ticketers or purchasers, the big co's.
Yeah. Yeah. So much of this is really difficult. I know Blockstream's been working on something to bring to market, but I haven't really heard what their timeline is. I talked to Adam back, 2 years ago now at this point, maybe 2.5 years ago about it. And it seemed like they were, it's not easy. This is like really
This is not easy.
Stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
With that said, and not to put a plug in for the Custody and Treasury Summit, as well as Imagine If, but Adam and Sean Bill are coming along with you. And I think this Blockstream asset management stuff that they're doing on the finance side is really interesting. And I don't want to speak for them and so on, but like what Adam and Sean and the team that Sean's building around him, me, I'm not like the TradFi finance guy. I'm like more of a community builder and entrepreneur, but there is something there. A lot of it to me is still noise and just vaporware, but there is some signal within there, especially on the business side and then also on the capital allocator side to be able to create different investment vehicles to continue to get exposure to Bitcoin, the underlying asset. So I think there's something there and much better than I do. So I think Blockstream is really going to focus and they are focusing in that area.
Yeah. Adam's been coming up with super creative things for years now on this. Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Custody Summit. Tell me the dates for this.
Yeah. September 17th and 18th on your calendar, Preston. But,
it is, I swear.
I know. No, you're the man. So like these, and it's really cool because there's so many things going on in Bitcoin. Like it's fascinating. Every single second, it's like, wait, there's another thing going on. And all of them, like they seem cool. I think with the park, and you've been so kind to participate in a number of them, is really creating and curating these experiences around something specific within the Bitcoin and freedom tech space. I didn't really want to do this, but I felt inclined to create a Custody and Treasury Summit because, a lot of the conversation is around the acquisition of Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin. And I do think custody and treasury need to go hand in hand.
Yes.
So if you're like, you have a treasury strategy, absolutely. You're a small business owner, you're an individual, you're a large co. What's your treasury strategy? You're making, $100 million of profit. What are you swiping into Bitcoin? What's the percentage? What's the strategy? Are there other ways to increase that exposure? There's so many conversations to be had. But one thing, in my opinion, that needs to always happen is what is your custody? What is your counterparty risk associated with this?
Yeah.
And so one of the cool things at the park that, you've been so kind to be a member and like just been supporting us and a number of other people, we're now able to make more investments in education and research and more content. We're going to introduce a custody white paper that we plan to introduce every single year, really digging into custody. And it's like, cool, we got the treasury strategies. Here are the custody strategies. And I'm not even poo-pooing like full custodian, like a River, a Strike, or a BitGo, and so on. There is a strategy for that. But I want to just showcase and platform all the different flavors of custody. So from full custody to collaborative custody, multi-sig, to single sig, to insured custody, what Anchor Watch and those guys are creating in that category.
Yeah.
So I think the conversation is going to be brilliant. Like, Parker, yourself.
How about just like institutional custody? So like, for example, you have NYDIG, you have Fidelity, you have, you name it, some of these really large players. And for the thing everybody's talking about is Bitcoin treasury companies. If they're conducting institutional level custody, is that a topic that you guys plan on covering as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's going to run the gamut from the institutional side as well as down to the individual side.
Yeah.
Because I think when you speak to the institutional side, almost every single individual and their mom is like, okay, well, what about me? And if they can learn it on the individual side, they'll be better equipped to talk about it in their boardrooms and in their other conversations.
Yeah.
And right now, though, the unfortunate truth is institutional custody is just with Coinbase right now.
Yeah.
There's not like a really big conversation. So I'm trying to level it up and just showcase all of the other solutions out there such that, and I think, and I got to give kudos to Fidelity. I believe they're custodying their own Bitcoin.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm just super bullish.
I think with the ETFs, I think what happened there is the first ETF got through and they listed Coinbase. And I think everybody else that had an application in the mix was just like, okay, well, that one that one's going through. So everybody just change it to Coinbase and then we're good because that won't be a roadblock. And next thing you know, like everybody's custodying their ETF at Coinbase.
I couldn't agree more. I remember in 2017, in January of 2018, it was like 2 more weeks and the Winklevoss are going to get their ETF approved and it's going to be like 100K tomorrow. And I'm like, holy smokes, really? This is going to be awesome. Like, and then next thing you know, we go through this crazy, like choppy, for 5 years and no line of sight to an ETF being approved. But to your point, with ARK, with the BlackRock ETF, with all these ETFs, once one was like, all right, this is the template.
And this is Kathy Wood's ARK, not the ARK we were talking about at the beginning of the show. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah,
just want to make sure that's clear.
ARK Invest, ARK B, her ETF. I hold both sides of the argument, right? And I can totally understand just being worn down from just application conversations, being ridiculed, and then being like, wait, what? We're the bad guys now? We just want to get a spot ETF, Gary Gensler. That's all we want to do. Not a, what were the other ones that were introduced that were just totally asinine before the spot ETF? It was some other stuff that wasn't even like close.
Yeah. On this topic, I'm really excited that you're doing this custody thing. Here's the why. So I was over in Lugano given a class on Bitcoin treasury companies and how it all works, the mechanics, blah, blah, blah. The class had incredible questions. And one of the concerns that just kept coming up, which is a super valid concern, is, Preston, aren't you concerned that all of this custody is getting centralized at one place? And I said, well, I share your concern, first of all. I'm not trying to say that there's not a concern there. But I also think that more and more companies, if we just play the tape forward, right? Let's say we warp ourselves 15, 20 years. In our opinion, every company on the planet has some form of Bitcoin treasury or savings that is sitting on their balance sheet in some form or the other. Now, whether it encompasses a MicroStrategy level, probably not. But any company that is sweeping and retaining earnings, they might own other equity. They might continue to hold it in Bitcoin. And if they're holding it in Bitcoin, this means that, look at how many companies exist in the world, publicly traded companies, they have to have some type of custody solution.
Yes.
Right? So if these companies are going to, by the tens of thousands, need some type of institutional custody, what does that look like? Is it going to be all consolidated into the hands of, call it a Coinbase, or just 3 actors? And my opinion is, no, it's not. You're actually creating an incentive to have more institutional level custodians that are, the good actors are going to get the business. The bad actors, hopefully there aren't any, but, I'm not naive either, are washed out because they just didn't perform a good service at a reasonable price. So I guess where my frustration is in all of this is what brought us here are the hardcore Bitcoin zealots that self-custodied their coins for the past decade plus. And they've brought us to the brink of, now the world's finally getting it. Now the institutions are here. And now the companies actually want to hold it too. And they can't hold it the same way that you hold it because they have auditors and they have all these other rules that they have to play by. And I feel like the old guard and the people that helped us get here are looking at this scenario that's playing out, which is the institutions want to hold it too, and they're pissed off about it. And totally. I'm saying this in 2 breaths here. I agree with the concern that we don't want it to be centralized at all. Yeah. I agree with this, but I also am looking at it and saying, you can't be mad that institutions want to hold Bitcoin. They're just trying to survive like you are at the individual level.
I think you nailed it, Preston, which is similar to, the ETF process. It's now we want to be in this game, and we have our own security protocols. We have all these different protocols that we have built our institutions that we need to continue to conform to. Now, with that said, I do think, to your point, over time, similar to the example I gave with the lightning torch, I feel like we're at the lightning torch level of institutional custody. We're going to look back and be I cannot believe we're all custodying with Coinbase, because I think the incentives are there to have multi-party custodians, to have better institutional custodians, to de-risk yourself and your career risk, to have multiple parties other than Coinbase to be custodying your Bitcoin. I do think attestation reports, proof of reserves, all of that is going to come to light, because it's just going to be a competitive advantage, and competition will lead us into this clarity. While on the other side, we should be chirping about protecting the properties that make Bitcoin amazing. That, I think, is the fundamental common denominator to we do not cut corners. We need to be able to custody our Bitcoin at any single point in time. And that's where it's going to get real interesting to me, because with more and more treasury companies announcing more and more purchases, I'm waiting for one of our autist friends to go out and be okay, cool. There's 19 point whatever circulating million Bitcoin. And all you guys are adding up. I'm adding up all your guys' acquisition of Bitcoin right now. And we're at 23 million Bitcoin. So what gives?
This is another talking point that I keep hearing in these conversations with the treasury companies. And I don't know what to tell people. In equities, when you value a business, it's a multiple of their earnings capacity. And that is always going to be the case. You don't value the business because there's $100 in the bank vault, or, $100 worth of Bitcoin in the bank vault, and the earnings capacity is that there's going to be more tomorrow or the day after. this is the classic bird in the hand versus two in the bush, right? That you're trying to figure out, like, is the risk to go after the two in the bush worth more than the one that you can capture or the one that's already in your hand? This is just how you value businesses. So if there's only 21 million units, but everything is going to be valued as a multiple, I don't know what to tell people. Like, it's just how
many kids do you have? And you said just try to get one Bitcoin per kid and call it a day.
Yeah. What it's showing to me is that there's a lot of people in this space that have never, ever thought about like how things are valued in this world. And it's a bit of a culture clash that's kind of happening between the institutions and the people that are arriving that are finally understanding Bitcoin.
See, this is where, what's that meme? It's like, I'm trying to get away, but they pull me back in, Preston.
Yeah.
Your role in this is going to be front and center. Because, I mean, not to boost your ego, but I truly believe this. You're so well respected within the Bitcoin community and well deserved. You're being invited to Riga, to the Baltic Honey Badger, to all the dev stuff. Like, you're the man. And then also on the institutional side, you have a great relationship with like the Senator Haggertys of the world, to all these other folks that they respect your opinion. So I feel like there's a small group of people that are in this like middle area that are able to help bridge the gap. And we're going to see this next evolution in Bitcoin, which I'm cautiously optimistic for.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic. If I have to be honest with you, it's getting frustrating. It's really getting frustrating for me because I'm trying my best to, like, I don't know.
Well, you're doing a heck of a job.
Thanks.
Let me just keep boosting you up because here's the deal.
Please.
You're going, okay, so there's three currencies, right? In my opinion, there's time, capital, and reputation. I think there's a lot of people that overvalue capital for the sake of time and reputation. So they will just destroy their not destroy, but like devalue the currency of reputation in order to increase capital. And they'll waste their time to increase capital as well. Like, so missing time from their family and so on and so on. And I think you're doing an unbelievable job of putting your reputation in the appropriate places, especially bridging this gap, as well as your time, investing it appropriately. Like, I'm so thankful you're coming to Custody Treasury Summit. I'm so like going to these other places in Riga, Latvia, of all places, to, all these other places. Preston, you're in like El Salvador, you're in, XYZ. And yeah, it's probably for ego death for a reason, but I know you care about it so much amongst a lot of other Bitcoiners. And so there is a lot of chirping, especially online, and like a lot of these other things. But going back to the ARC, the payments, just seeing that gives me so much energy and gives me so much hope for what is to come, that I'm like, you know what, I'll create another 100 summits to bring people together, because the in real life conversations are 100x better than any of the keyboard commando conversations that are happening online.
Yeah, amen to that. Let's talk a little bit about the physical spaces, because you've expanded the network. And for people that don't know, so what Rod built there in Nashville with Bitcoin Park, there is now a Bitcoin Park in Austin. So walk us through this. What happened?
Yeah. So it's the Commons. So Parker Lewis was the one who started Bitcoin Commons.
The mayor.
Austin, Texas. Now head of business development at Zapright. He just like focused on building Zapright. And he asked me like, hey, we really like the Austin community is amazing. And by the way, the Austin community is amazing. The density, and I don't like to say this because Parker and I have this like frenemy competition between Austin and Nashville, but the density of developers, engineers, and entrepreneurs in Austin, Preston, is unbelievable. Like straight up unbelievable. I have been like basically going there a minimum once a month, but like at the beginning when we started it in February 1, I was going there weekly, just doing a day trip. And, I just texted like a few friends and then a few friends. And then for the first meeting, just to let everyone know like what I think the vision here is, but it really needs to be community driven. We had like 14 of the best Bitcoiners that I would just be like, should we do a summit right now with all you guys? This would be amazing. And there's something there. It takes a lot of work to continuously organize a community and rally the troops around meetups, workshops, and summits. And I do think it needs to be like a core focus. like my time, capital, and reputation is all in on Bitcoin Park. I'm super honored, even like the Parker and the Austin community would just even think of me. And now hiring two amazing people, Andrew Davis and Jack Lesser, both leading Park Austin and Park Nashville. And then Rob Warren, who heads up our research and education. I mentioned that custody white paper.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one authoring it. And by the way, just a quick tangent, like going to your point, I do think there just needs to be more resources that are signal versus noise.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kathy Wood, super kind. We've been doing that Bitcoin brainstorm that you've been on a couple times. Her team and my team now with Rob are working on research together. So one of our first papers we're going to introduce is called Killing Bitcoin. Easier said than done. Because I want to bring to light, I've had an itch of like, we need to be more adversarial in our conversations around Bitcoin and just be more vigilant. And so how cool is it? Like ARK Invest is going to publish this along with Bitcoin Park. Another double tangent, but she's just been so amazing.
Dude, she's awesome. She really is awesome.
I'm like a nobody. And her and the team wanted to do this with Bitcoin Park. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, they do the crypto thing and so on. And like, I'm really focused on Bitcoin. I don't know if it's going to jive. She's like, Rod, we're called Bitcoin Brainstorm. You create and curate the show.
Mm-hmm.
We produce and distribute it. And I want to be there.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. And I thought she'd just be there by like one episode or whatever. We just recorded our 18th episode and we've been doing it for 2 years now.
Yeah.
We just had Paolo from Tether on, which was awesome with Dr. Laffer. And it's just been a blast. So I do think locally produced, globally distributed, high signal Bitcoin and freedom tech news and information
Mm-hmm.
is going to be a huge need and differentiator. And that's what we're going to focus on.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. I got a chance to meet Dr. Laffer and Kathy.
Not only meet him, you were on the panel with Kathy and Dr. Laffer. It was great.
I know. It was a huge honor to really kind of sit down with both of them. Thanks to you. Just tell the audience a little bit about him and how quickly he just kind of like got Bitcoin like immediately.
Yeah.
But it's really neat, the story with him. Yeah.
If you get the chance to meet Dr. Laffer, I would cancel everything you got and just make it happen. I love his energy. I love his curiosity. I love his directness. He's a big brain.
Tell people his background for people that might not know who he is.
So he was the former economic advisor for the Reagan administration. He was also the author of the Laffer Curve in economic history. He's also Kathy Wood's mentor.
He was her teacher back in college, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they stayed very close.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he's on the board of ARK. I mean, they're very involved and have a great relationship. So he's just amazing. He's in Nashville. His office is right up the street. His team comes to the park. I mean, I pinch myself because I'm like, what timeline am I in right now? We got like all these people rolling through the park.
I can honestly say, I don't know that I've been to the park. The last 4 times I've been up there, there has at least been a senator at the park. The last 4 times I've been up there. And every time I'm there and I see just like the people that are coming around for the events that you're holding, I'm just like, is this real? Yeah. Like, what is happening? This is so crazy.
And they're in like dad jeans and New Balances to like and it's just, whether it's policymakers and, they're great, but like, it's like the Dr. Laffers and it's like the Kathys and it's like these other really amazing people in their own respective industries that want to just
learn. They're there to learn
from us. Yeah. And then develop relationships directly. And that's what, one of our core values at the park with the team is like no gatekeepers. Like we are not gatekeepers here. So like we want to authentically create connective tissue amongst our Bitcoin Park member community and then our general Bitcoin Park community as well. But no, Dr. Laffer is unbelievable. And so like a little bit of the reason why I wanted to do Imagine If, to be honest with you. So
explain this because this is happening after the Custody Summit.
That's right.
And then, go ahead, run with it.
Yeah, so it's September 19th and 20th and something I've been dreaming about for a long time. So I've wanted to do a summit of summits because and Kathy's the one that kind of planted this in my head. She's like, Rod, there's a convergence happening right now between Bitcoin, AI, energy, and all these industries. And they're all converging and colliding right now. And it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? We need to like bring that conversation to light. And it would be very tough to do it. Even like our park summits are very focused on Bitcoin and freedom tech. And they're like 100, 150 people. this one, I really want to bring a lot of the industry leaders across Bitcoin, AI, energy, and freedom tech together. And then on top of that, Kathy and Dr. Laffer, every time I get them together, magic just happens between them. It's simply amazing. And so the ARC team, we have a weekly meeting with the team just to riff on a number of things related to Bitcoin. And it's like, I'm going to do this. And I would love for you guys to partner with me. I'll do all the work, similar to the create and curate. You guys produce and distribute. And they're like, Otto, yes, let's go. And Kathy's been kind. She's coming. And Dr. Laffer's in. He's coming. Adam Back's coming. Odell and all those guys are coming. Ego Death would love all you guys. And you guys are just crushing it. So I just want to give you guys a shout out. And it makes it really cool because now, a lot of the policymakers and they now know about these Bitcoiners. And when I'm like, Adam Back or Preston, Pysh, or, they're coming? Okay, great. Yeah, that's awesome. Tell them I said hello and we're going to come and we'll just be in attendance. It's okay. And we just want to be there and support and learn from the broader community.
Yeah.
And the other second point is I like when they ask what's the topic, right? And it's not like normally other ones would ask who's coming, what's the audience size, and so on. And they're asking what's the topic?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Of course, they're going to want to know who the audience is, but they can glean into what's happening. And so at this one, we have 65 companies, over 200 folks registered already for Imagine If. We have companies like XAI coming with most likely the Boring Company, those type of companies. And then imagine a Blockstream, Anchor Watch, a BDK Foundation are also going to be in attendance. Energy companies like TVA, shout out to them. They are going to have a pretty significant presence and probably a participation as well. And then there's other energy providers. Where it gets really fun, especially on the Tennessee side, Preston, is on the nuclear. And so you got Kairos Energy, Orano, Okla. We're tracking to have all of those folks in attendance too. So I could see a conversation, and that's why I titled this Imagine If. And I want people, and it's dreamers and doers. It's you got a Jack Dorsey, for example. He's dreaming of we need to decentralize Bitcoin mining and really compete at the rig level. And then he's got an amazing team of doers that just execute on that mission. And so I want to bring both of those groups together, and I want us just to dream much bigger and what those possibilities are, and then implement the world that we want to see.
It's interesting because those three things are just converging, almost like three different galaxies just kind of converging and are just going to smack into each other all at the same time. So the fact that you're putting that all together, to me, is just freaking brilliant, first of all. And I just can't even imagine what's going to come out of that. Because if I was a policymaker, if I'm an elected official or whatever, and you're not crazy hyper focused on those three things for your state or jurisdiction, I don't know what to tell you. You're totally missing the boat on where everything's going, right?
Well, and that's the thing. And I am very biased to Tennessee because that's where I live in Nashville. And I'm, tell the governor's team and all these other, we have an unfair advantage with the TVA and Oak Ridge. We need to leverage this unfair advantage.
Yeah.
And especially on the SMRs, the small modular reactors. The state did a really good job of creating this $70 million fund to kickstart investment in the state around nuclear companies.
Yeah.
What I want to do, similar to the Bitcoin side, where we kind of made Nashville, where Bitcoiners in the US as well as globally kind of come and work, learn, collaborate, and build. Well, every year in September for Imagine If, I want to bring all three of those industry leaders and doers. You're not going to be able to probably make it every year, but at least in Nashville, Tennessee, every September, Imagine If is happening. And you got to tune in and be a part of this, because that's what, where we have really deep and meaningful connections and conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. From the policy standpoint, they need to just open the floodgates for promoting these three entities to just set up shop, whatever they've got to do from a tax standpoint to promote it. And the thing is you put that governance or that policy, the laws in place. It's going to be like a magnet for them to come into the region. So hopefully they realize this. I don't.
And I think they are. And I'll share, like Georgia, I think is doing a good job of that, especially what they did with Core Scientific, incentivizing them there. There was a reason why we were in Dalton, Georgia yesterday for the Proto announcement. Core has a number of facilities all over. I don't know what the reason was, but it seemed like Georgia Power, the Georgia government, the lieutenant governor, the state senator, the council people, they were all lined up. And so that's another thing. We're talking about the policy side. Then there's the capital allocator side. This is really interesting to me as well. So imagine if you need to request an invitation, because I want to make sure, I always say, even at our smallest meetups to our largest experiences that we host, I always say one thing when I kick it off, which is I take a lot of pride and responsibility in making this the best Bitcoin and Freedom Tech experience you'll have all year. And so I want to make sure you're here at the best place. But the capital allocators are really interesting, because now they're like, okay, this is interesting. I cannot deny that Bitcoin is like this unbelievable investment. The administration seems like they're supporting it. There's more air coverage in terms of supportive legislation. Okay. Now how do we allocate towards this space? Okay. Well, do we go the picks and shovels route and go into the infrastructure side? Or do we go straight to the treasury side and to the entrepreneur side? Do we go straight into the asset side? And so on. And the type of high net worth individuals, family offices, institutional investors, and these folks that want to learn more. And it's so funny. They're like bringing like a physical notebook and being like, okay, Preston, you said this about this. Like, now I want to dig into what you meant by this, because I really want to learn more about this. That's why it's so, I take a lot of pride and responsibility, not only in the content curation, but in the people curation, speakers, as well as the attendees, to maximize the time for all of us to be there.
Bitcoin mining has a reputation for being impersonal, risky, and full of hidden fees. But one company is flipping that script, and it's Abundant Minds. Abundant Minds was founded by Bo and Christine Marie Turner, two Bitcoiners who lost over $500,000 to mining providers that overpromised and underdelivered. Instead of walking away, they built the company they wish had existed when they first started mining. With Abundant Minds, clients actually own their machines. And in Oregon, they come with no sales tax. There's one flat monthly fee for hosting, no surprise repair invoices, and if a rig ever goes down, their system redirects hash power so your earnings don't miss a beat. But what really stands out is how personal the experience is. Every client gets direct support, ongoing education, and guidance from a real human being who lives and breathes this mission, so you never have to be left guessing. In addition, through 100% bonus depreciation, mining can offer major tax advantages that you don't get by just buying Bitcoin. Their clients describe it like acquiring Bitcoin for half price when factoring in the returns and the write-offs. They've put together a thoughtful gift just for listeners of this show that could potentially save you thousands of dollars. There's no pressure, just something to help you think through if mining is actually right for you. So if this is something you're curious about and you want to learn more, you can check it out at abundantminds.com/Preston. That's abundantminds.com/Preston. You briefly mentioned AI at the beginning. Yes. And like literally as you were talking, I had an idea that like popped into my head that I think could be useful for all the attendees as they go back home and they're trying to decompress like everything that happened at the event. Before I throw out whatever that idea is, I want to talk, and I just want to kind of get your overall opinion on using AI now. Totally. I know you have talked about this recently in some of your interviews where you're doing browser extensions, you're doing this, just the speed at which you can create content and bootstrap things with funding and whatnot using AI. Give us your rundown. Where are you at with AI? What's happening?
It's kind of like you have to use it in terms of your workflow. Whatever workflow you have, you need to augment it and experiment with AI. So for example, I use voice to text pretty much now for everything I do. Or majority of what I do on the keyboard now is voice to text, because it's just voice is like 5 to 10 times more efficient than it is to text. However, the lift to actually get myself into that habit was very high, but I forced myself, and now I'm running. Similar to AI, I would not say, I just used it, it gave me an okay response, or I didn't really, and then I'm just going to go back to Googling and doing whatever. My first suggestion is commit. Don't pay an annual fee, but pay a monthly fee for whatever AI service. I have no recommendations on one or the other, but just use one and just Start using it as your default Google like search. It's so funny when people ask me questions now, or even like a question about something else. I'm like, did you ask whatever service? They're like, oh no. And then there's the answer right then and there. So that's first and foremost. Second is, and you do this really well, is anything that's repetitive in terms of your workflows that you're looking to do, and especially that takes away your energy, should be most likely automated through an AI agentic, either delegated purposefully or through some sort of AI agent, full stop. Like you got to get that off your workload, because you take one step forward and I'm able to take 1.1 step forward every single day. I'm going to be light years ahead of you.
Yeah.
Even though you could still see me right now, you're not going to be able to see me in like half a year from now.
Yeah.
But I will say, it's not like, oh, well, the AI tooling, still people are creative and thoughtful, and there's so much slop out there. And you're just like, dude, I know you're using AI. You're not like, I immediately do not read what you're saying. But then when, like, for example, I've always wanted to write more. I have this like series called This Is Dumb, But Hear Me Out. And I have all these topics that I want to write about. And now I can go to that backlog of notes and I can just start talking with the AI and just start getting my thoughts more crystallized. And now I write and for me, it's somewhat therapeutic because it's just a great habit to develop. And I wouldn't be able to do it without AI. So I would say, in terms of a suggestion, it's just, you have to include it in your workflow.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just so unbelievable.
Yeah. So for me, taking meetings, especially engineering, tech heavy type meetings, which I take quite a bit of, we'll sit there, we'll talk for a half hour or an hour. And, some things I'm picking up, some things I'm not picking up. And a lot of the times you don't want to slow down the conversation because it's kind of moving very quickly. But what I found is we use like a Firefly service where it's giving you, and even Zoom has this now, where you can get the full transcript of the conversation after you're done. And what I find myself doing is, if it's a recurring conversation, let's take ARC, for example, that we were talking about at the start of the show, which is a really technical thing with these virtual UTXOs and blah, blah, blah. So I have a context window, and I would take the whole let's say it was a conversation for a half hour, an hour about ARC, and I'm literally catching like 10% of what's being thrown down. I can take that entire discussion, rip it out of the AI is giving me the word for word, right? I can then ingest it into the context window via PDF. And then I can go back and I can say, hey, there was something that happened in this conversation, like maybe 25% of the way through, that was in reference to this. And I didn't really understand what was being said.
Yeah.
And it knows it can immediately, I can interact almost like I have the best expert on the planet sitting
unbelievable?
there. It's unbelievable. But then where I think it even goes further is I might have another 3 conversations. I'll ingest those conversations into that same context window. And now it's just getting smarter and smarter, and my ability to query anything is like off the charts. And so why I was smiling when you were talking about this event that you were having, the whole time I'm thinking, oh my God, they need a transcript of if you have a website or something like that after the event's over, that has a transcript of every panel, right? And then you could even have roll-ups, and you could even have things like, let's say you were a politician, or you were a person from the energy sector, or you were a person from this branch of whatever. You can have an AI recap and like the so what, like, why is this important to you? Or what did you, like, you can get all of that out of there, and you could have these files that people could extract for themselves that could then help them chew through the value capture that they can get that maybe they just didn't have the time or bandwidth to be able to handle while they were there, or they didn't even attend, but they want to be able to ingest all of this. Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It is totally crazy. And just like the website, which is bitcoinpark.com/imagine if, shout out to Jack on my team. He vibe coded that brilliant website together, and it looks so nice.
Yeah.
All of that. And then think about it. We have speakers, the profile pics, all of that is just, I think we were using Cursor AI for that one. And it's just so easy. And that's where, Preston, the curation of content is going to, And that's where, I'm dumb and bad at like 99 out of 100 things. One thing I think I'm pretty good at is curation of signal.
Yeah.
And this is like me, like Marty and I joke, it's like, and this is our time to shine, the thought boys or whatever it's called. But being able to curate all of that signal and then distill it into like clear bites of information, such that you could be the policymaker, you could be the engineer, you could be the entrepreneur, and you're like, wait a minute, I just want to be an entrepreneur that makes these widgets. Oh, I can use Bitcoin plus this AI customer service widget, and now I'm a band of one that I have unstoppable money that I'm accepting, while I have my customer service department that I would have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in a call center or whatever. And I'm able to just focus in on my craft that actually gives me the most energy.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. Preston, for our kids and where we are right now, I've never been more bullish in my entire life.
Yeah. Here's another weird idea. You could take transcripts of everything that happened at this, imagine if, let's say there's 30 panels or whatever, right? You take the transcripts of those 30 panels, you put them into your own transformer so that you train it on everything that was said, right? And then you just have some like interface on the website after the event that I could go in there, I'm politician whoever, or I'm from the energy sector CEO whoever, and I go in there and I'm just like, hey, I'm out of the energy sector. Like, what is something that happened during all these panel discussions that would be really useful for me to know? And literally the transformer that's been coded up on all the conversations that happened at the thing can come back and respond and give that specific person exactly what they need to know that was insightful or novel that came out of the conversation.
Totally. I think or at least my vision here, so you're totally right. And you could actually use Claude probably in ChatGPT and all that other stuff, as long as we make it available, which I don't see any reason why we wouldn't. I will say this, most people are though lazy, including myself. So they're not going to even want to maybe even do that interaction and step. They're going to want to go click and show me the clips, show me the highlight. And it's like the Instagram feed, But then there's going to be a good percent that, want to go choose your own adventure and go down that rabbit hole. I do think this allows us, because we've done such a great job of curating a lot of conversations at the park. We're sitting on a treasure trove of just amazing content, similar to how you are as well. And we just distributed on our just regular Bitcoin Park Twitter account. Well, we now have 18 episodes of Bitcoin Brainstorm. We have all these meetups, workshops, and summits that we've produced and published. Now we're going to organize them around these summits that we've created. So we have the Energy and Mining Summit in January. Most likely FOSS will be February. March is Bitcoin Takeover in Austin. April is our Grassroots Bitcoin. And the list keeps going to September, which is Imagine If and the Custody Treasury Summit. October, we do Global Bitcoin Summit. And then there's a Bitcoin Payment Summit. There's Nostr. The list goes on. Every single one of those, Preston, I'd like to produce a annual white paper that is a good primer for the audience to come and learn more. And you don't even need to read the whole paper. The paper is just published, and then you can use your own agent interface to query it and be like, hey, my style and my learning abilities. How best should I prepare? I want to go to the Custody and Treasury Summit September 17th and 18th. What are 5 bullets I want to know about? Great. Oh, who else is speaking, by the way, on MPC, multi-party custody? And are they speaking on this? And what should I pick up? I was like, oh, Rob Hamilton and Adam Backer are doing XYZ on this. And what are the risk factors and then all of a sudden it's like, imagine, that's why I wrote this piece, how conferences just suck. And they're just like a lot, very vanilla. And look, I get them and there's a purpose for these type of things. But like curated experiences like these summits, in my opinion, and now having more information to be better prepared to go into there to maximize your deep knowledge, as well as getting your connective tissue exponentially increased. That's what I care a lot about. And I think if someone gave me that resource ahead of time going into a 100-person summit, I'd be like, holy smokes, I'm like cooking with gasoline right now, catching it with Preston and, catching it with this person on X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. All right, Rod, we could just talk all day long, but if people want to attend this or they want to learn more about you, give them a handoff where they can learn more.
Yeah. And Preston, I want to just sell you this. I know there's some days where it's like, oh man, and especially traveling and what
there's
you do.
Lot.
What you do is phenomenal, man.
Thank you.
And keep up the energy because it means a lot for the community, the Bitcoin community, probably the investing community. We still have so much work to do. We're still so early in Bitcoin that we need more. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Rod. That means a lot. It really does.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see you in Nashville, September 17th and 18th at the Custody and Treasury Summit. I would recommend just going to our meetup page, bitcoinpark.com/custody-treasury. We'll probably put in the show notes as well. And then just go down and join the wait list. And we're going through that. That one, unfortunately, is going to be sold out here sooner than later. But we have a great lineup like you, Parker Lewis, Adam Back. I'm just pulling off the top of my head. Sean Bill from Blockstream. Odell's going to be there. And the list goes on. I'm humbled that you guys are all coming. So thank you.
Of course.
And then, imagine if this is the first one. This is the Summit of Summits, September 19th and 20th. We rented out the Fisher Center for Performing Arts, which is walking distance from Bitcoin Park. It's this beautiful theater. We'll probably have like 300 to 500 people when it's all said and done. And this is like capital allocators, policymakers, entrepreneurs, across the Bitcoin, AI, energy, and freedom tech space. And I just want these to be like crazy natural collisions amongst these groups of people. It's going to be pretty gnarly, in my opinion. So we'll see how it goes. I'm cautiously optimistic.
I'm bummed that I'm missing that one. I'm excited about that.
Well, you have a family obligation, and that is honestly the most important thing. So totally.
I've got to describe this family obligation to you so you understand.
Please.
It. Okay. I have a really good friend that I flew with in South Korea whenever, I was a pilot over there.
Wait, our mutual friend or no?
No, not.
Okay.
but our mutual friend is also friend. Our mutual friend is going to be at this wedding.
No way.
But anyway, and that's a whole nother story. But we flew together when I was in South Korea, and the joke, because that's where I met my wife. I was flying in South Korea. So she knows him really well. And the big joke amongst all of us was he is never getting married. He's never, ever getting married. And that weekend, it's his wedding. And this is my buddy Joe. And we're going to Joe's wedding. So it happened. It happened.
Well, congratulations to your buddy Joe. I will say, similar to what we're building at the park, what we're building is to be durable for decades. And that's where we value the time, capital, and reputation. And so not this year for you, especially next year, but for this year, I can't be more thankful for Kathy, Dr. Laffer, Senator Haggerty, and a bunch of other folks, Senator Blackburn, a bunch of other folks, especially on the energy side. I'm really, really interested. Like, we have such deep relationships in Bitcoin right now, Preston. I am very interested in developing these level of relationships on the energy side, but especially on the nuclear side. I feel like these guys have just been like,
I think it's going there, Rod. I think it's
going there.
Yeah,
they've been pushed to the side for so long.
Yeah.
And now they're feeling the love a little bit.
Yeah.
And then us Bitcoiners can be like, hey,
it's like we got
your back.
It's the Dr. Evil meme, right? Where like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. But that one, if you go to bitcoinpark.com/imagine if, just hit the request invitation. I'm very proud to offer complimentary tickets for our Bitcoin Park members like yourself and others. And so that's like a small token of appreciation to increase the member benefit, is just adding to it.
Well, you guys heard it here first. We'll have links to all of that in the show notes. And I hope you guys enjoy Nashville if you do attend. So, Rod, thank you. And until next time.
You have a company that's fully collateralized with extra Bitcoin in the vault, and they're making more profit than the ones that are playing the Ponzi game. And they're getting the issue like literally from thin air, and they're making more money than them. If that doesn't show you like the natural market forces that nature is trying to heal itself, I don't know what does.